Okay, so part two is overcoming obstacles. And I hope that you can tell that it's not like we are totally changing subjects or anything. We're just sort of moving to a part of the story where, well, we're finally getting to something called Maryland. So, a quick note that in part one, um, we already introduced Cecil Calvert and Leonard Calvert, but you will develop lots more notes on Cecil and Leonard as we move through part two, and then also in lecture number two. So when we get to a test and you have to write about, say, Cecil Calvert, then what that will be asking you to do is to sort of study and go back through your notes and look at everything you've learned about Cecil Calvert and then write about that on the test, not just the first time that you were introduced to him, which was here. Okay, same with William Claiborne, who you met in part one, but there'll be more on him here in part two and also in lecture number two. But we're starting part two by looking at the charter for the colony, which, remember, George had worked out with the king, but which actually went to Cecil after George Calvert's death. So it's King Charles dictating all this. He has lots of aides who help write, but often the monarchs did dictate large portions of these things themselves. Um, okay, so Charles, and the way I think that it would be most effective for you to take some notes on this is to sort of think of the different um, clauses or sections of the charter. And I have not included all the sections here in the PowerPoint, just the ones that I think that you should take some notes about. But if you are feeling like you are the coolest person watching this video, you can open the PowerPoint from Blackboard and click this link, and you can read the full charter and how, oh man, you'll be so freaking cool. Okay, but the parts that you need to have some notes on, be able to tell me about on a test, let's go through those. So here in section 2, note first the kind of language, and you'll see this all the way through, that is used to describe Cecil. The well-beloved and right trusty subject Cecil Calvert, Baron of Baltimore, son of George Calvert, Knight, the former Baron of Baltimore. And it says that Cecil is treading in the steps of his father, and the parts that I have highlighted are often particularly important, and that it says that Cecil is animated with a laudable and pious zeal for extending the Christian religion. Now, hang on. Think that through for a second. So this is like a reason that the king is giving this place to Cecil. One of the reasons is that he has this really awesome urge to spread the Christian religion. But hang on, which kind of Christian religion? He's a Catholic. He's a Catholic. And it's a Protestant king, who, by the way, has a Catholic wife. Anybody think that's a little sus? A Protestant king who's granting a colony to a Catholic and saying, one of the things I love about you is the way you want to spread religion. Think of how the Virginians are going to love that. So it says that Cecil may transport by his own industry and expense, right? Notice the king says, I'm not paying for this. A colony to a region later described, we'll get to that in a minute, and then this part is important, in a country hitherto uncultivated and partly occupied by savages. Hitherto uncultivated. That means where people haven't grown stuff. And partly occupied by savages, having no knowledge of the divine being. Okay. All right. Section 3 lays out the boundaries of this Maryland colony. And it's kind of a mess in here. I have a map here that tries to show you the 1632 boundary, but even that is a little messed up. So it says that the colony that we'll get to its name in a minute, it's called Maryland, will have the full possession of the Potomac River, and that the colony will proceed westward to the first fountain of the river of Potomac. All right, so the colony's border with Virginia will be the Potomac River, but Maryland gets the Potomac River. And then how far west does Maryland go? Well, we have to figure out where the Potomac River begins. And wherever the Potomac River begins, that is the western edge of Maryland. And then, once we find that spot, right, the beginning, the first fountain of the Potomac River, then this map works. Oops. This map works once we know where the Potomac begins, because the charter says that Maryland goes northward to the 40th degree of latitude. So this will be Maryland's northern border. And then once we know where the Potomac begins, we'll draw a straight line down, and that forms the western border. The southern border is the Potomac River, cutting down to a place called Watkins Point, which I don't have a good map that shows you that, but that means that Maryland will cut across the Chesapeake Bay, but include all of the eastern shore, all the way up to the Delaware River. And you see that little dot there? That is modern-day Philadelphia. And if you're thinking, wait, Philadelphia's not in Maryland, very good. So some things are going to change as we go forward. If you're looking at this and thinking, Maryland doesn't look like that, some things are going to change as we move forward towards the present. There's a whole story here with the Potomac River, and I want to tell you right now, but I think that we're going to come back to it later in the class. Okay, section 4 says that all the islands and inlets that are in the bay belong to the Lord Baltimore. And remember William Claiborne's Kent Island? Right. So if it's in the bay and within the blue line here, then it all becomes part of this colony that belongs to the Lord Baltimore. And the final part of section 4 says that the Lord Baltimore has what's called, I don't even know if I should tell you the term because it's a whole explanation, but wait, here it is. It says that the king has the powers of a bishop of Durham within the bishopric or county palatine of Durham. And boy, did I have to unravel this to figure out what it means. The short version is that the Lord Baltimore can do whatever he wants in his new colony. And we'll flesh that out a little bit when we go forward from here, but that is the key. It's like in the 17th century term, the Lord Baltimore has a fief. And if you're like, I don't know what a fief is, then think of it the way I said it before. He can do whatever he wants. Again, we'll flesh that out next time.